Hi everyone, welcome to the webinar today. We will be discussing, talking about the Urban Transitions Mission Center, and we hope that today we can introduce as well not only this project, but also about the Transformative Actions Program. Welcome everyone. This exclusive virtual event seeks to bridge the gap between international financiers, project preparation facility providers, and forward-thinking cities invested in the Urban Transition Mission and the Net Zero Cities Initiative. Our primary objectives revolve around two critical pillars. Firstly, we aim to present an array of diverse funding sources and innovative financial schemes meticulously curated to facilitate sustainable and efficient urban development. Secondly, we will host a live session of city project pitching, where 4 dynamic cities will showcase their ambitious urban development plans. The jury panel will provide direct and constructive feedback, fostering an environment of collaboration and knowledge sharing. If we can move to the next slide. The agenda is as follows. After the presentation, we will dig into the funding sources and financial schemes for urban development, which will be introduced and moderated by Mrs. Georgia Rambelli, Director of the Mission Innovation Urban Transitions Mission. And then we're going to have an introduction to these diverse funding sources and financial schemes from City Climate Finance Gap Fund, Catalytic Finance Foundation, and as well as the International Municipal Investment Fund and Cities Commission for Climate Investment. Then we will have 15 minutes for a Q&A session in which we welcome everyone to share your questions in the chat. Next slide, please. Afterwards, we will move on into the project pitching, in which these 4 different cities can present the projects that are urban sustainable infrastructure projects to the jury composed by Mr. David Albertani, Mr. David Jackson, and Mr. Steve Turner. And there will be a session of pitching and comments and feedback provided. Then we will finish the session with closing remarks by Mr. Andy Deacon, Team Manager Director of the Global Covenant of Mayors. If we move to the next slide, please. Just some housekeeping rules. The webinar will be recorded, and during the webinar, everybody can raise your virtual hands or write in the chat some questions that will be answered either live or via chat. There will be English and Portuguese interpretation available during the entire event, and you can find this button at the bottom of the screen. Then I would like to give the floor to Georgia, Mrs. Georgia Rambelli, to introduce and moderate. Please, Georgia, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Jean, and hello everyone, and welcome to our marketplace today. This is a very exciting opportunity that we have for really understanding a little bit how pragmatically and practically some of the cities that are part of the Urban Transition Mission cohort are really seeing opportunity to further invest in their own climate future. Maybe to start a little bit about myself and a little bit about the Urban Transition Mission. As mentioned, my name is Georgia Rambelli. I'm the director of the Urban Transition Mission, and it will be my pleasure to moderate this first part of our conversation today. The Urban Transition Mission mobilizes decision makers across all levels of government to come together and to prioritize net zero pathways that are enabled by clean but also systemic innovation across all sectors and in urban governance. We do so by fostering capacity building and helping as much as possible to close the gap between research, innovation, development, and deployment of solutions. And the idea is really much to really broker, as far as possible, both solutions and approaches that can really foster exchange of knowledge, but also implementation of new action across each city climate journey, across all the steps that they are undertaking. And we want to do that by particularly empowering cities across the world, not only to co-create and to select, but in particular also to adopt and implement solutions in their own city climate journey, as I mentioned before, to really help them reach the ambition to have a climate neutral, resilient future for their community. The role of the Urban Transition Mission Center, which is of course co-hosting the marketplace of today, is really to aid the journey of these cities by providing a platform and an opportunity for them to learn more about solutions that are available out there, but also to connect them with ways in which they can access funding, but also learn more about new ways and new models for them to implement and to invest into their own climate actions that they are developing and shaping every day through their own work. So today we are exactly looking into this. We want to understand a little bit better what are some of these measures, some of these projects, some of these actions that our cities are bringing together with a bit of a stark reality as a background. We know from climate science, of course, that our world is very much on life support, and this is unfortunately a matter of survival. Climate action is a matter of survival, in particular for the most risk, and increasingly a threat that is being brought across the world to each individual of our population on Earth. So I already mentioned how the partnership across sectors and this way of really tackling challenges is something that needs to be done holistically with all hands on deck. And we are particularly delighted that today, while cities are committing to their own setting and implementing of ambitious and equitable actions, we are able to bring together a lineup of financial institutions and partners at different also technical assistance facility that can help us a little bit navigate what are the key elements that can drive a project from its conceptualization for the need for responding to specific needs into our community, into the possibility to be financed, funded, and implemented on the ground. So without any further hesitation, I would like to open up this first part of our discussion, our call for action, and learn a little bit more about what project preparation facility and investment opportunities are available out there. And it's my pleasure to give the floor first to Marga Cantada, Urban Specialist at the World Bank, and to Giulia Macagno, Head of City Climate Finance GAP Fund, also at the European Investment Bank, to discuss a little bit more about the possibility of the City Climate Gap Fund and what does it entail for cities to be able to benefit from the opportunities, in particular in emerging economies, to realize their climate ambition. So the floor is yours, Marga and Giulia, and we look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you very much, Georgia. So I will start and then Marga will pick up, and so it's going to be hopefully a bit of a dynamic presentation. So thank you very much for having us here. We are very glad to be presenting the Climate Gap Fund to all of you. Of course, some of the people in the audience may already know us, but I think a good refresher and also a few examples of what we do or have been doing in the past 3 years would be useful. So if we can go to the next slide, please. So, so why is it called the Gap Fund? Because it is supposed to fill the gap, which has been identified between the huge estimated climate investment needs, which according to one of the latest estimations we had, amount to $93 trillion until 2030, and $4.5 trillion would be needed for project preparation only. On the other side of the divide, you can see the fact that there are increasing urban climate finance flows. So not only the World Bank and the EIB, but other MDBs as well, and governments, but also private sector actors are increasing their climate commitment. However, there is still a gap, indeed, between investors that have capital ready to invest in projects, cities that have demands for financing solutions for their projects, and the fact that there are a number of project preparation facilities already existing out there. However, we have noticed that there are a large number of projects that do not move from the project inception, from the idea stage, to the stage where they can actually be financed. So this is where the City Climate Finance Gap Fund steps in. Can we go to the next slide, please? So the GAP Fund focuses on the early stages of the project preparation cycle. Of course, we have represented the project preparation cycle as a very linear and an easy process. We know it's not like that, it's not linear. However, for the sake of communication, the GAP Fund focuses on the initial stages of the project preparation cycle. So we support planning and strategy development, from data collection, setting targets, analyzing scenarios, development of climate strategies, capacity development, and also institutional policy reform, policy dialogue, and the pre-feasibility stage. So once the project has been identified, so an idea has been identified, we would provide support to the origination, to the definition of the project, to the analysis of alternatives, pre-feasibility studies in general. And I should mention that indeed the GAP Fund is a joint initiative between the EIB and the World Bank. That's why Marga and I are sharing this presentation. So the World Bank focuses a little bit more on the earlier stage, more upstream work of the project preparation, and on the EIB side, we focus a bit more on the pre-feasibility stage, but we work really closely together, and the GAP Fund is one initiative with two separate implementing partners. I will stop here. Can we go to the next slide, please? Marga, over to you.
Thanks, Julia. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. So I'll be talking about what the GAP Fund offers. In this slide, you can see that there is a range of interventions that the GAP Fund can support during the early stages of project preparation, as Julia had mentioned. And it can be any one of these activities or a combination. So we can support the development of city climate strategies and analytics, capacity building programs for low carbon and climate resilient urban development. And once those strategies and plans have been developed, we can also support the identification and prioritization of investments that would be part of a broader municipal program. Further downstream, we provide support in defining project concepts and preparing pre-feasibility studies, helping to structure appropriate finance mechanisms and linking them with downstream project preparation facilities. And lastly, if you have a project that is in an advanced stage of preparation, but still a specific gap needs to be filled in terms of technical analysis, that has a specific climate lens, of course, we can also help on that front. One last thing I want to highlight in this slide is that the GAP Fund does not offer long-term support, and that includes, so we don't support project implementation, feasibility studies, or detailed technical designs. The focus is really on early stage project preparation. And in terms of time frame, the grants that we support typically range between 6 and 12 months, depending on the type of support requested and the level of resources required. Next slide, please. So this slide talks about who can receive support from the GAP Fund and how, or who are eligible. So first, the GAP Fund is open for application on a rolling basis. So cities can go to the GAP Fund website. That's www.citygapfund.org. You can download the templates for expressions of interest. They're available in English, French, Spanish, and Portuguese. And you can submit those expressions of interest at any time. Cities that are eligible to receive support from the GAP Fund are cities located in countries that are part of the OECD list of recipients for official development assistance. Projects eligible for GAP Fund support need to demonstrate specific climate action potential, either in terms of mitigation, adaptation, or both. There also needs to be clear ownership at the local level. Expressions of interest can be submitted by the city governments themselves or by public utilities or other higher tiers of government in partnership with the city government. Urban dimension is very important. The project must be located in an urban area or functionally linked to one. And as Julia mentioned, again, the project should be in those early stages of preparation in terms of what the GAP Fund focuses on. In terms of sectors, the GAP Fund supports all urban-related sectors. So that includes energy efficiency and small renewable energy generation and distribution, water and wastewater management, circular economy, green spaces, nature-based solutions, green buildings, and affordable housing, as well as area-based investment programs such as urban regeneration and informal settlement upgrading. Next slide, please. Here, just very quickly, we'd like to highlight some of the progress made over the last 3 years. The GAP Fund has supported 184 cities, almost half of which are in sub-Saharan Africa, followed by Latin America and the Caribbean, and East Asia and the Pacific. Currently, we have 60 TAs that are either ongoing or under preparation, and 26 that are already completed as of today. And I'll stop here for now. Back to you, Julia.
So I would like now to just give one example of a technical assistance support that has been provided on the EIB side of the GAP Fund. So as we said, more on the pre-feasibility stage support. This concerns 4 municipalities in Uganda, Makindi, Nansana, Kira, and Entebbe. And so these municipalities came to us jointly in a grouped application, which is something that we also we can also consider and accept. And this is actually, let me say, a nice way to group together smaller projects, because indeed we know that the scale of the projects, of the urban projects, in view of getting financed is a real issue. So I think the idea was here to present a group of cities that applied together. So what we provided was a waste generation and characterization studies. We analyzed alternatives specifically for organic waste treatment based on the preliminary environmental impact assessment and the financial and economic characteristics. We analyzed the status of waste collection, the feasibility of waste collection and transport, and also provide the basic design for alternative organic waste treatment option and the identification of potential site. We have also analyzed the institutional aspects of waste treatment alternatives, who needs to be involved and how, and so on. The impact that can be
O impacto que pode ser esperado, aguardado. Em primeiro lugar, são 4 projetos em 4 cidades.
Key recommendation from the study was to then extend the program to the whole Wakiso district, with the potential also to increase the reduction of landfill methane emissions. In terms of next steps, what needs to be done is to identify potential donor initiatives and also financing opportunities for these projects. And then I think this has been initiated, an expression of interest, a new expression of interest to develop a program for the overall Wakiso district. So yeah, this is in short a little bit the outcome, and this shows you as well that we are focusing, as we said, on the early stages of the project preparation, but we don't abandon the projects after the GAP fund has provided early stage DA. We identify or help the promoters identify follow-up alternatives and possibilities, because we realize that the projects need to still go through a number of steps before they can be financed. So next slide, please.
So in this slide, this is a World Bank supported example in Bogota, Colombia. It's one of the 26 TAs that's already completed. And here the GAP Fund provided technical assistance to help the city better analyze its greenhouse gas emissions profile, and then assess air quality and implement its low carbon vital neighborhoods project. And this is the first pilot program in Latin America to implement the concept of a 15-minute city model. So it's an urban environment where all amenities are accessible within 15 minutes, either by foot or bike. So the grant supported the development of policy recommendations, urban design guidelines, and spatial proposals for 2 pilot neighborhoods in San Carlos and San Felipe. And these recommendations served as inputs for Bogota's land use and sustainable and safe mobility plans. It also resulted in the identification of different tactical urbanism interventions that are ranging from $3.5 million to $53 million in investments. And in terms of next steps, as I understand, by the end of this year, the interventions identified in the 5 selected neighborhoods would be fully executed. And currently, for the Alameda Vital project, the city is currently exploring financing options to support this. So that's just to give you a flavor of the both upstream and downstream types of support that the GAP Fund can provide. Next slide, and I think this is the last slide, please.
Also, I just wanted to comment that you have 1 more minute.
Oh, perfect.
Oh, perfect.
So,
we're good.
So we conclude with this. As I mentioned, you can download the expressions of interest, the templates. Again, they're available in English, French, Spanish, and Portuguese. And we encourage you to visit the GAP Fund website. There are other knowledge resources that you can check out. And so we'd like to thank you for your attention, share your ideas, and reach out to us through the website if you have any questions. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much to both of you, Julia and Marga, for the presentation. Not only for setting the scene and kind of mentioning already from now the big divide, as you mentioned it earlier, Julia, that there is when it comes to project and to funding, but also for going more into the detail of the opportunity that the GAP Fund provides in really supporting project preparation at the very early stage. And I think seeing the numbers of 184 cities that are already part of your family, it's quite exciting, and we look forward to see more results coming forward. But we continue our journey and learn more about different opportunities, different possibilities that are out there to support cities across the board. Of course, first and foremost, our Urban Transition Mission Cities. This is a co-hosted session, but of course, any city that has an ambition to become climate neutral and resilient for the well-being of their citizens. And it's my pleasure now to give the floor to our third actually, speaker of the day, Davide Albertani. He's the CEO of the Subnational Climate Fund, and he will tell us a little bit more about catalytic finance, which I believe is a recently launched initiative that really looks into offering a comprehensive advisory and technical assistance and blended finance design for urban infrastructure projects. And definitely urban infrastructure, a very key issue for cities across the world. So David, the floor is yours.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Georgia. I hope you can hear me well. So indeed, I'm David. I'm the CEO of Catalytic Finance Foundation. Actually, we were recently launched, but mostly renamed. So we're known as R20 Regions of Climate Action. So maybe some of you knew us from the past, and since we've been working more and more closely with finance, and we just joined forces somehow. We with also C40 we renamed ourselves. So this now it's called Catalytic in short. So today I'm here to present the Subnational Climate Fund. It's an initiative we created now 3 years ago with a few partners, and that I received support from the Green Climate Fund. So in a nutshell, and just to let you, it's more downstream that the GAP Fund has presented. So it consists of 2 instruments. One is also a technical assistance, but again, what we would call last mile. So when a project is already somehow designed, but there are a few gaps, the technical assistance that we can provide can support a city or a sponsor to reach the bankability, but definitely on a later stage than what the GAP Fund is doing. And the second part is an equity investment fund. So that can provide investment into an infrastructure. And of course, when we speak equity, that means it's a private investment. So we can either invest in a private structure or a PPP model, but we cannot provide debt to a municipality to undertake an investment. So if we go on the next slide, please. I don't think I will do all the slides now, but and no need to convince you. Part of the rationale of the subnational climate funds is really to be able to invest at subnational level. Most of the climate solutions today are at subnational level, and unfortunately, most of the climate finance is not reaching that level. So I think we can go to the next slide. No one to convince here. So maybe what type of project we can fund? So both in the term of technical assistance, but also the equity. So first, anything dealing with sustainable energy. So renewable energy, energy efficiency, energy storage, all those type of projects, we can look at them. We've been looking at them, and we can invest in them. I think that's very obvious. The second sector we look at is waste and water management. So in the waste sector, we work a lot on the waste sorting, treatment, recycling facilities, also on composting. On the water, we are mostly working on the wastewater sector. So again, hard infrastructure on those topics. Then we have a topic on urban development solution. This is mostly covering transport, electric mobility, e-mobility in cities. And then the last point is around sustainable agriculture. So this is not really as per se urban, but more at a regional level, where we do invest in food security projects. So mostly in processing centers for old crop or other type of infrastructure. So if you go on the next slide. So I won't go also in every single detail, but as I mentioned earlier, so the SCF initiative consists of 2 pots of money. One is really an equity investment, and this equity investment is also what we call blended. So there are a few senior investors that are purely commercial, but there is also part of this investment is covered by the Green Climate Fund on the form of a first loss tranche, which is of course concessional. This first loss is 150 million. And so basically help this investment vehicle to invest in geographies that are more emerging, more frontier than regular investor. And there is the technical assistance facility that work alongside, that is purely grant mechanism. The Green Climate Fund contributed $18.5 million US dollar to this technical assistance facility. I think we can go on the next slide. So this initiative altogether is is managed by a consortium. So first we have a fund manager, so managing the equity fraction of this initiative. The fund manager is called Pegasus Capital Advisor. They are based out of New York. They have office also in London. We have a technical assistance manager, so providing the oversight and the fiduciary obligation to GTF is the International Union for Conservation of Nature, IUCN in short. I'm sure most of you know them, and they also provide capacity building services. Ourselves, so Catalytic Finance Foundation, we manage the project preparation, so the technical assistance supporting project feasibility studies. We have Gold Standard. It's also a Swiss foundation. They do impact certification, and they're mostly known for their carbon credit standard. And so every single project that is undertaken by the Subnational Climate Fund is certified thanks to Gold Standard. And of course, at least but not least, the Green Climate Fund, which is the anchor investor of this whole initiative and providing the concessional capital. If we go on the next slide, and I think we can skip that one and go directly to the next. Maybe just to give also here an example, that's our latest investment. We invested 43 million in private group in Mexico that does solar photovoltaic for rooftops, hospital, municipalities, schools, and also commercial such as mall. So the investment is 43 million, but for instance, just to understand, the technical assistance also provided funding for this project where we funded that environmental social impact assessment, environmental social action plan, and a stakeholder consultation according to Gold Standard rules and regulation. So of course, people always highlight the investments, but for all those investments, there is technical assistance happening before. So if we go on the next slide, and I think this is a way forward. So on the technical assistance, what we do, I think we can go again on the next slide and next. Let's go here. So there are three types of services that the technical assistance can provide. First one is really project development, so project preparation. Again, if we compare that to the GAP fund, this is more last mile. So we can support feasibility studies, environmental impacts, social assessment, legal documentation. Most of the projects we see usually are technically very soon and feasible, but the institutional setup around the project is very complex and need lots of legal fees to get to this point. So these are typically the type of costs we can cover. On the environmental side, also what we see is a gap between sometimes the national rules and national, let's say, framework and what, huge lenders like IFC, would ask as an environmental social safeguard. So those are the type of costs we can cover to have environmental social impact assessment that are up to IFC performance standard and our standard. So this is typically something that Catalytic manage. And the second point is capacity building. This is mostly managed by IFCN. So we organized our 5th workshop this year. So we organized training for local authorities and municipalities to support them in what is a bankable project, identifying project, and so basically make sure we have a long-lasting impact. And the last point is really we also support the development of new SDG impact metrics. So for some of the projects we are currently dealing with, for instance, we're currently looking at cold storage facilities in cities in Morocco. The impact methodologies are not yet very clear for avoided food waste translated to carbon credit. So this is where the technical assistance can provide support to really come with the right metrics. On
David, apologies. You have 1 minute left.
Okay, so on the sizing of the technical assessment, which is the same for the equity fund, we are looking at deals that are between 5 to 75 million US dollar, and in the sector I mentioned before. So if you go on the next slide, we have non-global coverage. So this is due to the GCF rules and regulation that maybe you're familiar with. So we have 42 countries we can invest both TA and equity. You can see the list here, but if you can go on our website to check if your country is indeed eligible, and maybe we can go to slide next just to let you know where we are today. So if you go to the next slide. So today we supported 42 projects. You can see the number of intervention between feasibility studies, environmental social assessment, and pre-feasibility studies. Pre-feasibility studies are mostly market research. So those are for projects that are already quite well advanced, but where some documentation was missing at the pre-feasibility stage. So this is an ongoing initiative. We have a website, subnational.finance. You will see much more information. And on the website, you have a platform where people can apply, submit project, and then our secretariat will follow up with everyone who submitted their project to look if we can support with either TA or equity investment. So thanks everyone, and looking forward the later stage of the marketplace.
Thank you so much, David, for your presentation and for kind of giving us an overview of different sectors that are indeed very relevant for the urban level. We talked about energy, wastewater, but I think even when we talk about more, let's say, food security related infrastructure investment, it's very important to remind ourselves that, yes, we talk about cities today, but the rural-urban nexus is something that always need to be strengthened and fostered and supported, in particular when we talk about sustainability of our infrastructures. And your point of making investment for infrastructure that are not just sustainable, but also scalable, it's something else that I think it's necessary to consider when we talk about not only creating new infrastructure, but also thinking about the management and the uptake of this infrastructure. I also think that your point on really understanding the return on investment in terms of social impact is something that is very important, although today we are talking more money, I would say, but still very important to remind ourselves. And on this point, I would like to give the floor to our fourth speaker of the day. It's my pleasure to introduce to you David Jackson. He's the director of the UN Capital Development Fund, and in particular a fund that is really designed to think about exclusively supporting cities and local governments with a particular focus on developing countries and the sole aim to accelerate the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals and the Paris Agreement. So without any further ado, David, the floor is yours.
What I'm going to talk about here is the offer we've put together with ICLEI. It's called the Cities Bridge. It's an existing facility, and it's actually the amalgamation of 2 or 3 existing facilities to create something which we think is similar to what you've heard about so far, but also unique, and also, to coin a phrase, fills another gap, if you like. And it's a game changer, we believe, for the issues faced by some cities. So next slide, please. So, of course, the challenges and opportunities, the challenges and objectives of this fund is really to develop sustainable investment-ready projects, and specifically to provide access to customized financing instruments. And I think I'll be focusing on this customized financing instruments during the presentation. A lot of has already been said. I don't need to repeat that. But if you look at the top right-hand box there, shortage of transformative projects that are financeable. So our thesis is not, you'll often hear, well, there's all the projects, there's all the money over there, there's all the needs on the other side, we've just got to create a bankable project. We don't believe that is actually the best way to look at the problem, because creating the bankable projects on the terms of the banks is clearly not working. because cities are not able to do that and meet their development objectives. Either the price of capital is too high, the capacity is not there, or the requirements of a particular financier don't match the financing package that the city can put together. So that's the issue that we want to overcome, really, with our Cities Bridge proposal. It will support projects with a focus on secondary cities located in developing countries. And our definition of transformative and financeable projects is that for a project to be financeable, it must be able to pay for itself one way or another, whether through it's a public investment, which increases fiscal space and pays for itself that way around. It's an equity investment, it's debt. We can do debt, unlike some of the other funds you've heard of, or what have you. So that there is a financing package that is there, and that the project is also transformative. There are many bankable projects that are not necessarily transformative. So next slide, please. So like the other presentations you have heard, we follow the full project cycle. But I think you've also heard some people saying we're at the beginning, at the end, or we're at the beginning of the process, or we're at the end of the process. So the Cities Bridge is a full spectrum. With the support of ICLEI, we're able to cover the early part, but with the UNCDF mandate and capacities, and then with our financiers, we're able to take it right through to completion. And there are some examples of projects that are going all the way through to completion. So we're a full spectrum city support facility, and we call it the city-friendly investment spectrum. Because, I mean, one of the critical features really is that financiers have to learn to be city-friendly. It's not only about the cities meeting the terms of the banks, it's about the financiers understanding the way that cities operate. And this is in the context of the Malaga agenda for a financial ecosystem that works for cities and local governments and that requires specific policy reforms. And this Cities Bridge facility operates in that context to try to drive those policy reforms. So the transactions we favor will be those that really open up the scope for these reforms and for more similar transactions to take place. The financial solutions we offer, of course, are public investments. We work with cities on own source revenue, on intergovernmental fiscal transfers, on accessing public finance. For example, we work with ministries of finance and ministries of local government to secure direct access to green climate fund resources. We've achieved this in some countries where, of course, a city itself is not accredited, but the Ministry of Finance or a national entity is accredited, and the city receives direct public finance for support to a project through the GCF route or other vertical funds. We also work with UNCDF capacity and instruments, which include loans, and zero-rate loans, reimbursable financing agreements. So there was one project that has already been financed in Morocco, where they applied for our pipeline, and we were able to tailor a financial solution that met their requirements. In this particular case, what they were looking for is a way to install clean solar street lighting and replace the diesel generators. And we were able to come up with a solution that was financeable, going back to that phrase, financeable versus bankable. And it was financed through a zero interest rate loan, which was able to install the street lighting. And then the savings made from the installation of that street lighting were able to repay the loan. And this was possible in the context of Morocco with a negotiation with the regulatory authorities to allow the city to do that. And we found a way that other cities can do that now. And so we're working with the government of Morocco to take that to scale. So this will create a kind of financing mechanism for such a pipeline of clean solar street lighting across a variety of secondary cities in Morocco. And we've signed an agreement with the province of Tetuan, it's the northern part of Morocco, to do this. And we're working with the Fonds d'Équipement Communal, the FEC, to set this up. So that's an example. But there are also other financiers. There's the International Municipal Investment Fund, which is the equity fund. I'll come to that in a moment. There's also a guarantee facility. I'll come to that in a moment. But the point being that there's a range of options. The city in Morocco actually did not apply for the option that they ended up financing them. We were able to kind of re-engineer to find a financing option. In that regard, it might be quite interesting to look at some of the investments that don't make it through the GAP fund, which is largely to be financed through World Bank and EIB loans. And we could maybe pick up some of those and re-engineer those to a financial solution. Next slide, please. So, of course, underpinning this is the dual key system, which means that there's an impact key and a financial key. The financial key is the project financeable, according to the criteria I mentioned earlier. And the impact key is, will it achieve the desired impact? And it cannot go forward without the holders of both keys giving their say-so, giving their go-ahead. And this is what happens at the investment committee. And this investment committee often then it also passes the investment on to one of the end financiers, if that is not you in CDF itself. So you need the impact and the financial, and on the impact is equally important. You need those that will stake their reputation that this impact will be met to agree before it goes ahead. So we work with various ISO standards, standards for clean energy, standards or climate adaptation, et cetera, and make sure that one of those standards is the impact that will be applied. And of course, the city itself has to fully sign up to this and be completely satisfied that the impact will be reached in addition to the financial key. So that's actually quite often an iterative process. Sometimes, you know, the financial key may be met, but there's uncertainty about the impact key. So we can't go ahead until both are satisfied. I'm just going to accelerate a little bit. I'm a bit conscious of time. The next slide, please.
David, you still have 2 minutes time.
Oh, perfect. So let me just race ahead. So, so here's three funds that are currently capitalized: the International Municipal Investment Fund, the Build Fund, the Bridge Facility. All three are capitalized. Next slide, please. International Municipal Investment Fund, $350 million. It's managed by Meridian out of Paris, and this city's bridge is the technical assistance facility for it. So you have direct access to this fund. There are specific criteria. This is an equity geographical criteria, but that is one of the funds that we can tailor projects towards. Next slide, please. There's also a guarantee facility for cities, which is financed by the European Union Fund for Sustainable Development. This can help to guarantee those investments if that's required. It can also help to secure Ministry of Finance approval through by alleviating any liability on sovereign balance sheets. So this is a key element of the kind of ecosystem that we're putting together. Next slide, please. And the eligibility criteria. So that should actually read developing countries, not least developed countries. So it's pretty much the same. Non-OECD countries are eligible. We look for local currency as far as possible. If I had time, I wanted to present to you a bond, a domestic currency bond, which we're finalizing in Tanzania to finance clean water. So this will be a bond on the local currency markets, on the local market in Dar es Salaam, $23 million. This proposal started off as an equity. That wasn't going to work. They looked for debt. Nobody was going to lend to them. So we came up working with the regulatory authorities of the country, the opportunity of floating an infrastructure bond on the domestic capital markets. And who will be subscribing to this bond are Tanzanian pension funds. Because it's in local currency, there's no foreign exchange rate risks. We tried many different options before arriving at the one which is going to be used. And we had to achieve clearance from the head of state in this case, because it's going to be the first ever municipal bond outside of South Africa in sub-Saharan Africa. So the point being is that we can do a variety of financiers across our full spectrum of project preparation support. So it's not I think I'll stop there. If I had more time, I'd explain to you what we did in the bond or the Moroccan
Thank you very much, David. This was very, very helpful. Yeah, I think you were muted for the last second, but thank you very much for your presentation. The good news is that this is one marketplace that we are organizing together with colleagues at ICLE in the framework also of the Urban Transition Mission Center. But the idea is to continue supporting cities with further capacity building on their investment and financing and funding options. So I'm sure there will be more opportunities to learn more about this example that you're mentioning and much more. And I also want to thank you very much, not only for showing how your initiative is particularly filling gaps that are existing out there, but also how it is important to always consider transformative potential of the projects that are brought forward for investment and implementation. Then finally, I think raising again the point of the importance of utilizing multi-level governance, dialogue with regulation authorities and with the national level is a key element to really unlock the flow of finance that is needed for our cities on the ground, while also considering the importance of flexibility and being able to re-engineer the financing options that we are exploring. So thank you very much for all of that. And we go now to our last contributor of the day, but by no means the least. And it's a pleasure to introduce to all of you Steve Turner. He's the director of 3CI, the Cities Commission for Climate Investment. And I understand that this is a partnership between Connected Places Catable, Core Cities UK, London Council, and other local authorities across the UK, with the aim of supporting local authorities to secure necessary long-term financing for achieving net zero. So, Steve, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much indeed, Georgia. And I think there's some slides coming through. So thank you for the opportunity to talk to you about an initiative that we're doing only in the UK at the minute, but there's opportunities certainly, I think, to develop this internationally in other locations. I think, as you said, Georgia, this is an alliance, 3CI, the Cities Commission for Climate, an alliance between 90% of the municipalities in the UK, which includes all of the London councils, all of the core cities in the UK, key cities, and various other networks, all contributing towards 3CI. And we're very much focused, like, you know, many of the other initiatives we've already heard, on helping local governments secure the necessary finance to deliver on their net zero ambitions. Could you go to the next slide, please? So I won't go through the details of our advisory and our governance board, but what I'm trying to do here is give us a sense of the reflection of the seniority of our advisory board, but secondly, this is very much led by local governments. It's led by the municipalities, the biggest ones in the UK, but also some of the smallest ones as well. I think that's critical because they have a bigger challenge perhaps than some of the largest ones. But we also convene those local government leaders with investors, predominantly working very closely with one of our core partners, which is the City of London Corporation, which, of course, those of you who know the Square Mile in London has some of the largest, most important, biggest financial institutions, not only in the UK, of course, but globally as well. Move on to the next slide, please, and then skip that one, actually, and we'll move on to the, yeah, great. So we developed 5 major work programmes, and these really reflect the challenges that local government in the UK municipalities face in terms of achieving net zero. The first is around a concept we've been developing, which is net zero neighbourhoods. And we understood very early on that for local government to achieve net zero, it would require new financial models that allowed for private institutions to invest in net zero. And so we've had to develop new models as a consequence of that. The current models for financial investment in many UK cities around retrofit, around renewables, simply do not work. So we spent a large majority of last year working on a new model, which is based in neighbourhoods and starts to look at a range of approaches, including deployment of renewable energies, retrofit of residential properties, retrofit of commercial properties, and active transport. The second challenge we identified after that one of financing was around scale. We know that most local projects in the UK anyway are about £5 million UK sterling, which is not big enough to attract private investors. So we developed something called the National Net Zero Project Pipeline, which is a national register of locally led or regionally led bankable projects. So we have now over 1,000 projects in that portfolio, worth between 40 to 60 billion pounds worth of investment. And we're working with investors and advisors to bring those projects forward for investment. After the challenge of scale, which the pipeline addressed, we addressed the corpus, which you've heard a lot of, is the skills and capacity within municipalities to bring projects forward for investment. So we're working again with our local partners and the UK government to develop a technical assistance facility, which you've heard a lot about. So I won't go into great detail again about that, because what we're doing is very similar to what other places are doing as well. Then fourthly, we've been developing regional investor events, and these are where we bring some of the projects alive at a regional level with investors, and almost the project sponsors pitch those projects to a panel of investors for feedback. Similar, I think, to the second part of today's programme, actually. Very similar. And we've done that in a number of UK cities already. And lastly, finally, is about sharing knowledge and best practice. There are some really good examples out there, but the mechanisms for sharing those, I think, are a little bit limited and don't always reach the right audience. So we're doing quite a bit of work on that. So those are our 5 work streams. And again, the first 3 really reflect the challenges that certainly UK local government faces. So if you go to the next slide, please. And what I'll do is go very, very briefly into those 5. So I talked about the net zero neighbourhoods. We developed a new financial model for how you invest in neighbourhoods to achieve net zero. It's based around 1,000 residential properties, because that gives you sufficient scale, we believe, to allow institutional investors to invest over the long term, as opposed to single residential properties, which is much more challenging. We developed a detailed model. It's been through what we call in the UK Green Book financial appraisal. So that's a very rigorous process set up by UK government for any spend of public money over and above a certain threshold. Where we are now, we've invited municipalities to submit proposals and ideas for schemes for investment. We'll be launching that at COP in a couple of weeks with KPMG. We've also established a net zero investment task force with the City of London Corporation, which brings together a group of investors to really analyse the model and the approaches and support us in this process. Next slide, please. So the second work stream again was around the technical assistance facility. So many of you may believe that UK local government has capacity, has capability, but it's not true, I'm afraid. It's certainly suffered in the last decade in terms of the challenges they had on the public purse, and simply don't have the resources to bring net zero projects forward for investment. So we started to work at something at a national level to help address that gap, but working with investors such that they can invest upstream into some of that skills and capacities and support local government in partnership. Next slide, please. And again, going back to the challenge around scale. So the pipeline, I talked around 1,000 projects across 50 local authorities with an investment value of 60 to 80 billion. We're working with those. A lot of those are in them early stages, if I'm honest. But we've got a whole range of projects. Again, we're working with the investment community to move those forward for investment now. I'm looking at sub-regional funds, sub-regional pipelines, which I guess are much more active at the local level and give communities the opportunity to contribute as well and help shape projects too. And the next slide, please, conscious of time. So yeah, the regional, jump on. There we go. Regional investor events. So these are the kind of events that we've been running over the UK for the last, last year, really. We've done 3 already, Bristol, Glasgow and London, where we've had, as I said, local authorities pitching their projects to investors. And those projects have come from the pipeline. So those in Glasgow obviously came from Scotland. London, those came from the 33 London boroughs, and we had a panel of investors who gave critical feedback. And in many instances, we actually got investors to partner up with those local authorities and to move some of those projects forward. We've got more of these planned across the UK because they seem to be proving quite successful in terms of marrying up investors and project sponsors in a very practical way. And the next slide, please. I think this is the last one. So this is we've done an awful lot of work in terms of how do you support local government in terms of practical guides for unlocking private sector investment. How do they prepare themselves? How do they organize themselves? How might you develop a national demonstration program? So certainly on our website, which I'll put a link in the chat, there's lots of information in terms of some of the background work that we've done. And part of that reason is such that we don't have, certainly in the UK anyway, local authorities duplicating and replicating work that has already been done and achieved. We're also working very actively with a major initiative in Bristol, the City Leap programme, which I won't go into detail on that. Some of you may be aware of it, but we're looking at rolling out that programme, which will deliver Bristol's about 20% of their net zero investment. And there's a huge investment coming from Ameresco and Vattenhall as a heat network provider, and establishing a community generation fund as well, to roll out in other UK cities, hopefully over the next 2 to 3 years. So, Georgia, I think that's the end of my presentation. I hope that keeps you on time.
No, that's perfect. Thank you so much, Steve, for this. And by the way, part of the mission of the Urban Transition Mission Center is also to manage a platform where we are sharing resources with communities and local governments that are part of the Urban Transition Mission, and many more across the world, and partners as well. So we'd love to share some of the information that you have just shared together with us, and some of the good practices that are coming from your activities, and give them visibility on that specific platform. And thank you very much also for, again, talking about this combined challenge, right? The net zero ambition that our cities can have from across the world, but also the challenge around having scalable, reaching the scale of the projects that are necessary to be invested on. And then finally, I really think that your point on working together with the investors shows once again the cities are not just the place where innovation is being tested and driven by others and by other communities, but it's really also a place where innovation is brought about and is also generated with new models to create partnership and opportunity for a more sustainable future. So thanks for all of that. I want to thank all of the speakers that shared with us these amazing examples and great opportunities. I also want to redirect all of the speakers to the chat. There are some open questions in there that you might want to respond directly by typing the answer. I am aware that we are over time already slightly for starting our pitches and our conversation on how we can support these pitches to become closer and closer to implementation and to reality. So with this, I want to thank you very much. I'll be listening closely to the rest of the conversation, and I give the floor back to Jean to introduce the rest of the program for today.
Thank you very much, Georgia, and thank you everyone for your presentations. They have been very enlightening and informative. We really appreciate it. With this, I just want to mention there's 2 questions, I believe, for David Jackson in the chat, in the bots, and I hope that you can answer them in as well in the chat. And well, without further ado, and as well keeping an eye on the time, I would like to give the floor to our colleague Rodrigo. Apologies, not Rodrigo. To our colleague Esther, who will do the introduction to project pitching. Esther, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jaume. So indeed, now we arrived at the second part of our event today, which I believe is the most exciting part, which we will hear project pitches from 4 cities, from Malang, Indonesia, Old Manchester, UK, Menez, Lebanon, and Contagem, Brazil. So those who already attended a TAP Marketplace, they already know how the structure is, but so just also for those who haven't yet, and for those that already have done, as a reminder. So the cities will do their pitch. Each of them, they will have approximately 6 to 7 minutes. And after each pitch, they will get feedback from the juries composed of our experts that we have here today. And then after giving those feedbacks, each jury, please keep the time maximum to 2 to 3 minutes. So it's really just the very first impression that you get on the project. And then we move on to the next project. And then again, the same sequence, the project will present the concept and then get the feedback from the jury, and they will move on. So to ensure that each project will get a tailored feedback. But we really would like to encourage all of you, also if you are not doing a pitch, to stay with us, because maybe one day you will do a pitch, or maybe you will support someone to do a pitch. So we believe, and based on experience, this is a great learning exercise for all of us. So without further ado, then I would like to hand it over to my colleague, Deputy Executive Secretary for ICLEI South America, Rodrigo Corraggi, who will then moderate the pitch part of the event today.
Thank you, Sarah. It's a pleasure to be here, to be part of this process. It's a blessing for ICLEI South America to join our colleagues that globally are leading our efforts with this array, this whole network that make TAP an initiative that we see the element of the transformative component of the project when we advance and we can see the change in the city's engagement and how they start and how they finish their cycle within the initiative. As Esther basically said, all the rules of engagement, I believe that we are all settled and done. I'd like just to let you know that we're going to have a few of the colleagues that we already have been listened to as our jury. We're going to have David Albertani, Chief Executive Officer of CF. We're going to have David Jackson, Director of Local Development Finance, and you're going to have Steve Turner, that just was with us in a few minutes ago, Director of 3CI. We're going to start our presentation. I just wanted to remind you, each city has a total of 7 minutes to make its presentation, and you're going to ask for each one of the 3 juries that we have in our panel to have a 2 to 3 minutes top of time to make their comments that are going to be done immediately after the city's presentation. So with no further ado, I'd like to ask for the representatives of the city of Malang, Indonesia, to be here with us and to start the presentation, the projects, this decarbonization plant, energy recovery, and Sepit Orang sanitary landfill to achieve circular economy of integrated waste management in Malang, in the city of Malang, Indonesia. Please, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. Is it my voice sounds and clear?
Yes.
Perfectly. Yes, perfectly, Adam. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you. Good evening from Indonesia. My name is Adam, and here I am as a representative of Malang City, and we will share our initiatives. That is Malang City's decarbonization journey, transforming waste into sustainable energy. Please next. So we are proposing the project that called decarbonization plan. So like the name, the goal is like to make like a factory, like a plan that has aimed to reduce the emission from the solid waste management system. In this project, we would like to do the energy recovery in Sepit Orang sanitary landfill, our landfill, to achieve circular economy of integrated solid waste management system in Malang City. As you can see here in the right slide, you can see this is our sanitary landfill, and it's like have an integrated solid waste treatment system. As you can see, there is a composting plant, there is a sorting plant, and so there is a sanitary landfill, and also there is a liquid treatment plant with a membrane barrier technology. So, so we would like to make this plant to can reduce as much as waste as possible. So please next. Okay, so for the review, the project submitter is the Department of Malang City, and then the partner is Simplex Foundation, and we are in tandem for the collaborative effort for waste management and also for the low carbon initiatives, as you can see in the slide. Please next. So for the current stage, actually for the decarbonization plan, it is in pre-feasibility study. So we already do the budget calculation. We also did the environmental assessment. But actually, the decarbonization plan is like a collective effort and also like integrating a last project and some project to one project. So our story is started from 2022 when we received a grant support from KfW Development Bank and SECO in ARIC SOM program. We received a sanitary landfill that has a great technical site to collect the methane gas collection, and then we also already has the technical and also the GHG assessment that are also available. And then after we receive this kind of support, we are continuing to receive the support again from the German cooperation with Indonesia. This time we are getting funded by GIZ in ARIC IKTI project. So this more like to the capacity building support. By the end of 2023, our city will have developed planning toolkits for the low carbon municipal solid waste management system. So the landfill for the technical side, and then the GIZ one is for like the capacity building aspect. And then recently this year we also received the support from World Bank that called Local Service Delivery Improvement Project, or LSDP, where we will build a waste energy facility that is called Refuse Derived Fuel, or RDF plant, with a capacity up to 120 tons per day. And currently in the feasibility study stage and expected to commence operations in 2025. And then, as you can see, we have a lot of support. We have a lot of grant from the national government or from the French funding. And then we would like to see, we will develop a new value. We would like to make a value creation. That's why we have discussion with the GCOMC to submit a decarbonization plan proposal to the TAP application. So our goal is to develop a carbon financing to support landfill gas conversion project and also to support the waste to energy project. Please next. And then this is the overview of our solid waste management condition. So as you can see, Malang cities is generated of waste per day up to 700 tons. And then we also do an initiative to reduce the waste in a community base or community sector, like recycling, composting, and then all of community initiatives. But as you can see, we just could reduce the waste up to 30%. So the 70% of the waste is still going to the landfill. And Malang city is a compact city, it's a small city where the land scarcity for new landfill. And also no utilization for potential landfill gas. And then because of this challenge, we like to propose the approach that's called the decarbonization plan. Where there are two projects. The first one is landfill gas utilization. The second one is to build the RDF plant, waste energy plant, with the capacity 300,060 tons per day. And in the outcomes, as you can see, we would like to achieve the emission reduction that we already calculated using IP6026 methodology. And then also the outcome is Bagus Community Project, and also we would like to extend the lifespan of the landfill until 4 years. And then the value of this project, of course, it is supported by the national policy to transitioning to renewable energy with RDF co-firing. And then we offer the opportunity to the investor or funder is to use carbon credit scheme for carbon offset project or public-private partnership with for the RDF plan. Please next. And then is the last one. So the estimated total cost of the project is up to 20 million USD. And then this is the cost breakdown project for the building of the RDF plant, and then also for the landfill gas project. And we already secured the budget up to 7 million USD from the World Bank because we already will build the 120 tons per day of RDF. So we'll still have money that we have to find for this come to happen. And then the financial barriers, of course, we still need to build the infrastructure for the PPP scheme. And then also we would like to looking for support for grant, obviously for the R&D for the product, also the market assessment, also for the capacity building, or also the financing capacity building. And also we will also the support to public-private partnership for building the RDF plan, and also for the carbon financing scheme, where we like to looking for pre-financing for landfill gas utilization. I think that's all from me. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you, Adam. Thank you for being timely, but to be engaged in the process as you have been. Thank you so much. I'd like with no extension of time from myself, I'd like to give the floor to our jury panel. I'd like to start with Steve. Steve, could you make your contribution?
No, of course. And well, first of all, thank you very much for your presentation, Adam. Really great, really very exciting to see, you know, Malang, a city I visited many years ago, actually, when I was a student traveling. So I think, you know, what you set out is something that is really solid and really concrete. I think these sorts of infrastructure developments are well proven, I think is the best phrase. So you're dealing with something, I think, here that financiers understand, they get, and they grasp, both public and private. So I think you know, first and foremost, you're focusing on something that the market and, well, institutional investors do understand, and certainly what you've set out seems to me very, very solid in terms of the evidence base and the work that you've done. I suppose I would say if there's obviously at the minute a slight gap in the funding of it, and I wondered to what extent you were looking for private investment, and whether and if that is the case, what may be to what extent have you identified potential revenue streams to allow private sector to invest? That's just one little question. Certainly in the UK, there's been a bit of how do I say this? A lot of private investors invested in these sorts of infrastructure developments in the UK to mixed success. And I think that was because the municipal government, again, didn't necessarily have the right technical capacity and capability to manage the contracts element with the private sector very effectively. But overall, looks a great scheme. So my only question was really to understand to what extent you look at private finance investment into it.
Thank you, Steve.
Did I answer directly, or?
Yes, you can do directly, Adam. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
And shortly.
Okay, thank you for the feedback. Actually, for the public-private partnership is still ongoing process in Malang, especially also in Indonesia generally, because as you can see now, we are building the plan is using the loan from the World Bank, and it's through the national government. So we still have the barriers. If there are loans from the overseas or the funding foreign, we still have the support from the national government. And as you can see, also we are still developing the infrastructure for the regulation for the public-private. So maybe I think what we need first is like the assessment for the first one is the market assessment, and also the financial assessment, because also we would like also to don't want to rush to have another plan, because we will have the first one is on 2025 for the 120 tons per day. So I think what we need is the baseline first, like the market assessment, and then also the exploration for the finance opportunities. Maybe I think I can respond to that.
Thank you, Adam, and thank you, Steve, for being the first in the floor to make the comments. Thank you so much. I'm gonna continue with our David panel. I would like to ask for David Jackson. Could you make your comments, please?
No, well, thank you. I think it's a very interesting project, and it's
there's evidently a lot of moving parts. So I think one of the things that illustrates is how complex this whole business is of subnational finance for transformative investments. You know, you have come a long way, and you noted in the presentation many counterparts. So I think to the point that was made earlier about capacity in the UK, for example, it's you know, wherever you are in the world, many local governments are not able to pull together the coalition of agents and actors that you have managed to do. So congratulations for that. But I can also imagine that it was quite a long journey. You know, there's not that many partners to go around. There's only so much that KfW can do, and so on and so forth. And it's a huge inertia has to be overcome to get these actors involved. You know, you also mentioned funding from the World Bank, which of course will be through the sovereign route. So I think, I mean, beyond the project itself, it demonstrates the importance of building this ecosystem for subnational finance that we're all engaged in. And I think all of the different technical assistance facilities we heard about and guarantee facility for cities that we're trying to build, etc., is all about building that ecosystem that can support this type of project. A couple of other points more specific. I mean, one is that in the context of Indonesia, we're working quite closely with PTSMI as a potential funder of subnational infrastructure finance. I wonder if you've been in touch with them. I didn't, excuse me if I missed, I didn't hear you mention them in the presentation. But also we're working on a similar waste to energy kind of a waste management a program with the city of Banyumas. And what we find in the case of Banyumas is that in order to be able to make a revenue stream which can actually be stable and predictable enough to attract financing, even though they have a relatively good business model, it's going to be necessary to aggregate 2 or 3 other cities. So of course there's an extra complication in that because it involves, you know, 2 or 3 other entities, so that's more political economy to deal with. But you can actually reach a critical mass in terms of getting something which can be solid for you know, longer term in investors to come in terms of waste management. So my second question is, have you considered that? Excuse my ignorance, I'm not quite sure of the scale of Malang itself. Would that be something that you would be interested in, or do you think that the city itself has a problem of sufficient scale that it does not need to do to make those kind of those connections with others? And I'd be more than happy to work with you. Our team would be. We actually have a team in Jakarta that's working on the waste to energy with other cities, including the one in Banyumas. So we'd be more than happy to plug you in with that. And we're hoping to be able to deploy the guarantee facility that I described earlier to the waste to energy programs that we're looking at within Indonesia. So this could actually come into that portfolio. So that's actually quite a pleasant coincidence. So that's a very concrete outcome potentially from this call. So thank you so much.
Thank you, David. I just would like Adam. Most importantly, I'm gonna ask you. So I believe that your conversation with David, we're gonna continue in this with the segue that he has presented. I just gonna ask, to the sake of time, that you're gonna jump to David to make his comments, so we can wrap up our first panel. David, please.
Thank you. So yeah, I think a great presentation. Definitely, you know, we need more of those type of projects. So you know, definitely that would be eligible first for our technical assistance window. So we've been supporting quite a few similar projects also in Indonesia. On the equity side, I think what you said, you know, to answer Steve's first question is true. At some point, definitely, if you want to have an equity investment, you need a PPP, you know, framework. There will be need tendering process, and so I guess that would be in a later stage. Maybe just to support if that's needed, we launched a few months ago a white paper on RDF safeguards to issue carbon credits. So you can look at that on our website, but definitively there are a few elements you need to consider to issue carbon credits and to use carbon finance for RDF projects. Not every single RDF project is eligible. So we have a quite lengthy paper, if you want to check that. And yeah, I think, you know, as a more, if you want to have private investor, I think, you know, Steve made the point about offtake. I think that those would be important at some point. And the second one is definitively, you know, questions that will be strategic for you on the O&M, so operation and maintenance. I think for all of those waste deal, operation and maintenance is always very critical. So it would be a very, you know, I think, I don't know if you already have a plan, you know, if the municipality want to be the operator, if you want to create a public entity, or if you want to tender that. But definitively, the option you will choose, I think, will drive, you know, some of the potential funding options. And most probably, if you want to go through a PPP, or if you want to have private investor, and you know, we could definitely look at that one. My guess is that having a you know, tender to an O&M, you know, could be easier. But again, that's I think a strategic decision the city has to do. And then depending on that strategic decision, the financing route may be a bit different. And so I think this is a question you really have to ask yourself, or maybe you already have an answer, but yeah, altogether, I think it's you know, we need more projects like that in the world.
Thank you so
So
much,
thanks.
David. Thank you so much to our panel. Thank you so much, Adam, for your timely. Of course, we could continue this conversation with more length for sure, but in the sake to have all our participants to have their best time, I gonna make this. I have the bad cop position to try to settle the timing, so I'm sorry for being able to check and to finalize the Milan City presentation. Thank you so much, Adam. We hope to continue be with you in the continuity of this project. So continue moving on. We're going to have the Oldham Green New Deal Community Energy Partnership in the Greater Manchester being presented. Greater Manchester City in the UK. I'd like to ask for our colleagues to start their presentation. The floor is yours, and the time as well. 7 minutes for this slot.
Brilliant. Thanks, Rodrigo. I'll just share my screen. 1 second. Right. So yeah, good afternoon, and thanks for inviting us to share this project today. So my name is Kat Wong. I'm from Carbon Co-op. We're an energy cooperative based in Greater Manchester, UK. And we've been working in partnership with Oldham Council for quite some time on a number of climate and energy initiatives across the borough. And today we'd like to introduce the Oldham Green New Deal Community Energy Partnership. So this project partnership is looking to upscale community energy renewable projects across the borough. And this is sort of kind of grounded on the 2021 local area energy plan that was produced, which is like an outline roadmap for a way to decarbonize the energy system in Oldham and get to net zero by 2030. And in the LEAP, it identifies about £5.6 billion is needed of investment to deliver net zero. And so this is a map showing potential sites for ground-mounted solar PV, which have been identified in this document. So in terms of like an overview, the main aim really is to kind of mitigate carbon emissions, reducing the reliance on fossil fuels, providing the opportunity for renewable energy alternatives, and creating a kind of local energy market which connects in the offer for local people to buy renewable energy locally. And this community energy partnership is very much grounded within this wider system called the Green New Deal Delivery Partnership. It's a mechanism for really engaging private landowners and asset owners in the borough and connecting them with community energy groups and developing joint ventures to set up new renewable community energy projects and creating this project pipeline that then can start to be delivered. So as Carbon Co-op, we're working in partnership with Oldham Council on this, with other partners like Electric North West, Oldham Community Power, an existing community energy group in the area, and Oldham Energy Futures. So at the moment it's in the scoping stage. So at the moment we are conducting a few kind of pre-feasibility engagements. We've been in discussions with one of the sites, Royal Oldham Hospital, for a potential community energy solar rooftop PV project. It's really, this project really is split into two phases. The first phase would be like a pilot project demonstrator with up to about 3 community energy projects, where we'd be doing the pre-feasibility studies, engagement, and developing the concepts, so then the feasibility studies and identifying funding options and delivery. Following this, we'd be looking at a second phase up to 2030, which would be continuing the development of these renewable energy projects across the borough. So really, we want to try and reduce the reliance on fossil fuels. We'd have this the development of this mechanism called municipal developer, which would be a mechanism for supporting community energy projects to get off the ground. Like I mentioned, we'd be going through these stages of project development and very much looking for kind of sources of investment as well to fund the capex for these projects. And within the LEAP, it's identified that there's potential to deliver 584 megawatt peak of solar capacity, ability to reduce 500,000 tons of CO2 emissions, and there's added values of supporting community energy groups to grow in Oldham, the development of community investment pot for energy efficiency projects. So this would help to target kind of fuel poor, vulnerable, marginalised communities in Oldham to help support them, and also the ability to develop over 100 plus projects, jobs as well. So yeah, there's a real potential for investors to come and support. We have the grounding from Oldham Council for its legal binding targets to try and reduce CO2 reduction, and also the opportunity there is really to invest in clean energy projects in the borough, which have a social environmental set of benefits as well as a return on investment. And in terms of the financial indicators, we'd look at phase 1 as a kind of cost of up to about €6 million, and then phase 1 and 2, really the kind of investment potential there is a 1.9 sort of billion euros. It's quite a large amount, but we've done a bit of solar potential mapping in the locality, and there's an estimated internal rate of return of between 6.1% and 15.9%. There'll be a return on investment target, which we'd be looking at hopefully around between 5 to 10% over a maximum of 25 years. And at the moment, we are looking at some grants to support that pre-feasibility work and engagement with land and asset owners. And we're also exploring the option of applying for the Community Energy Fund, the UK government fund, which allows the development of feasibility studies. And after that, following that, we'd be very much looking for that capex funding for phase 1 and 2 in the form of loans, bonds, and private investment for that kind of financing. Yeah, so that's kind of our pitch today, and thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you so much, Kat. Thank you so much for your presentation. Thank you so much for your work, and I believe they're going to have an interesting update from our jury panel. I'd like to ask or take advantage that David is just here on my in the corner of my side. I'd like to ask you, David, to make your comments. And I'm going to ask for our jury panel, if possible, due to the constraints of timing. I believe that won't be feasible to have a feedback from the city, a proper feedback with the proper time. I believe that your comments, any feedback from the city would come by an email that we're gonna ask for the group of the logistics to support. Okay, so David, please.
Thank you very much. Sorry, I have lots of sun today. So maybe first point, just a disclaimer. I'm really, we're much more investing in ODA countries. So I don't have that much experience in Europe and even less in the UK. So my first feedback and what we see is that, on the grant side, most of the grants around the world are dedicated to ODA eligible countries, so mostly Global South. So definitively, when you have a project that has an IRR such as the 15% you showed, and you're looking for earlier grants for the project preparation, I believe you could have a national scheme like the one you mentioned, maybe philanthropist, but for sure, a lot of the existing mechanisms are dedicated for ODA countries. So definitely, the type of pot you can tap in for the grant would be limited.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then I don't think I will learn you anything, but I think for all those type of schemes where I would say it's platform, something very important is that all those deals are as standardized as possible. So we did a platform investment in Mexico, as I mentioned to you. And so also it's the same, like every single deal has the same type of underlying contract. There may be a bit of difference, but I think that's very important because ultimately you really don't want to fundraise for all of those rooftop piece by piece. That would be time consuming and definitely transaction costs would be massive. And maybe because I'm based in Geneva, just for your information, the utility of Geneva called SIG did such a scheme, and they use crowdfunding towards all the energy customers of the city, and it was oversubscribed and very cheap. So maybe it's happy to also make a link there, but this is not really what we do. But I know it was very very popular, and now we have lots of solar PV on the roofs that were funded by the customer of the utility, the local utility. But yeah, not much more to say. I'm not familiar with non-ODA countries. Sorry.
Thanks, David.
Thank you, David. Would you like, David? Could you have your feedback?
No, thank you. So it's really interesting. I'm also, although being from the UK, I haven't lived there for quite a long time, and so I'm not really up to speed with what's happening there with regard to energy policy. And so similarly to the previous contributor, we work mainly in non-OECD countries. But having said that, a couple of questions, and forgive me if I missed it in your presentation. In some places there is actually a national policy of offtake that obliges the energy authority to purchase renewable energy if it's generated municipally or by household or whatever. But that enables local governments to aggregate and then sell on to the grid. So I don't know if that's in place in the UK or not, because that's a game changer if it is, and if it isn't, it should be.
So there is the option to sell to the grid, but it's actually quite at a lower rate. But there's potential to sell to consumers and residents locally. So there's another initiative called the Local Energy Market, which we're exploring with Oldham Council on a localized market to be able to sell energy.
So are you allowed to do so? But you are allowed to undercut the grid. So you're allowed to undercut the UK energy providers. That's okay if you do that through solar energy. You could give them a better price, for example. So, and there's an initiative called Energy Local, which would be kind of the model that we follow, which is about kind of having kind of an agreement and with like
the energy generators, there'd be like a PPA agreement as well.
Right. Yeah, I think because that will be the key, the kind of revenue stream. Either you sell it onto the grid and they have to give you a good price, and that's a policy issue. In some countries they do that. Or if you're allowed to, even better or as good would be to be allowed to undercut, be allowed to compete with these others providers and sell to, let's say, the community at a cheaper price.
Yeah.
So because you need an anchor investor, so that could be a hospital, schools,
yeah,
and then they might want to invest locally because they're investing in their local economy. So I think you need either a policy change to enable you to sell to the grid, or a policy change to enable you to kind of sell it locally to local consumers and have the anchor investors coming in, and then local supermarkets and things like that. And once you build that momentum, you could get and then you'll get the revenue streams you need for the investment.
Yeah, that sounds good. Thanks,
Okay,
David.
thank you for the feedback, David, and thank you, Kat, for complimenting. Steve, I'm gonna ask you for our 2.5 minutes remaining for your observations. Thank you.
Well, maybe I can make it for my panelists here. I live about 20 kilometers away from Oldham, Kat, and I've worked with Carbon Corp before. You're a great organization. So my insights were, and Oldham's done some amazing stuff actually over the last 20 years actually in this space. I'm very aware of that. And what struck me is that what you're proposing, there's a lot of, I think David said this, there's a lot of moving parts, a lot of different assets here. And I think my temptation would be, I think you mentioned the Royal Oldham Hospital, is to focus on 2 or 3 of these initially. And I'm not sure what was in your phase 1 to get you to simplify it a little bit. And so that's one thing a comment I would make, is try to simplify where you're focusing your initial sort of phase of deployment of solar PV, and try to get maximum output from those where you can, because then you're going to generate a higher revenue scheme. I also think I was in meetings this week actually with Traders Bank, which is obviously UK focused. Have you spoken to them at all on this?
Not at the moment, no.
Right, I'll reach out to it, and because I'll help you with that one, because they are really good at this stuff, and really interesting community-based renewables, and because it's PV, as you know, in the UK, it is relatively risk-free, and I think the way you can de-risk this is having less assets to deploy against, and having just a few to start off with. I think that would be very attractive. I can put you with trios, and also. I guess the Lawrence Weston's initiative in Bristol, which is the community renewable piece there, is definitely worth a look at. Again, if you need someone to help, reach out to colleagues in Bristol. I can help with that. But I think it's a really exciting scheme, and I'd like to see it rolled out across the rest of the city and where I live, which is Manchester.
Fantastic. Thanks, Steve.
Thanks, Steve. Kat, you have fantastic 30 seconds for your final remarks, some feedback that you have from the panel that you may want to make.
I mean, if
you have any final observation,
I think it's fantastic. I think if we can have links to financiers or like potential support, especially like as well, like kind of technical support as well, being able to kind of help us like signpost us to any potential technical support, that'd be great as well.
And Kat, sorry to come in on that, Traders will offer to do that technical support for you as well.
Oh, amazing. Okay. Brilliant.
Fantastic. I believe this is the best wrap up that we could have with a good segue. Thank you so much, Kat, David, Steve. And when we reach our half of our pitch moment, we're going for our 3rd city.
Rodrigo, you are muted.
Yes, I had some issue, I believe. I'm sorry, but I believe I'm back now. So we are continuing with the city of Contagem and sustainable climate through photovoltaic energy. The city is I have a disclaimer to make. I'm really close to the city of Contagem and being close to them. And thank you so much that one of our South American cities could be here. And I'd like to ask to the good people of Contagem to make their presentation. You have your 7 minutes going up.
Hi, good morning or good afternoon. First of all, I'd like to thank our partner, ICLEI, and the TAP team for the opportunity to be here to present our project. I wish I could speak in English, but we have so short time, so I prefer to speak in Portuguese. It's easier for me.
And I'd like to make everyone, if they could, to check the translation. You could listen to Maria Teresa in English.
Here we are in the English channel. I am translating from Portuguese to English. This pitch.
Falando pouco sobre Contagem,
Contagem,
município da região metropolitana de Belo Horizonte, cerca de 620 mil habitantes, faz limite com a capital do estado de Minas Gerais, Belo Horizonte.
Is near the city of Belo Horizonte, which is the
município emancipado desde 1911 que teve o primeiro distrito industrial planejado do Brasil na década de 1940.
Brazil in 1940 in the state.
É município com muita força industrial, com muitas empresas logísticas, que gera bastante impacto em termos de
impact in the area.
Por outro lado, mantém uma boa parte do seu município ainda como zona rural e possui uma parte dele comprometido com a preservação de uma lagoa, que vocês estão vendo aí na foto, responsável pelo abastecimento de cerca de 30% da região metropolitana.
30% of this forest, as you can see in this photo.
Pode passar.
Next slide, please. The project that we present is the substitution in some public buildings of the traditional grid, hydroelectric, that they're used in thermoelectric for solar energy. We have a country of a lot of heat, a lot of energy, and we understand that this is extremely important for this solar energy. The focus is the mitigation of this this energy. To elaborate and execute this project was created a multidisciplinary that is with engineers, lawyers, biologists, and they also have support from the mayor, and she's very active in this area of mitigation of climate. This project has support of the civil society through companies, universities, NGOs, and technical issues that helped us. Presentations of new technological innovations, and we have to highlight it's important in this project. The energy company of Minas Gerais as an external agent, that all the energy connection of the municipality is done through the state company of energy. As you can see, the 4 buildings that were chosen and distributed in the municipality are the 2 public parks, the main building of the mayorhood, and also a sanitary landfill. The choice of these areas are the size of the project multiplying in terms of education, and that we will see this further on. The project now is in the stage of conception and design, and it is basically to take advantage of areas of public buildings to apply photovoltaic in the building for its energy, and also the surplus would go to other public buildings. These plates this exists already. What is necessary is no need of intervention that will affect vegetation, because we will use what is already existing. We will optimize what already exists. Use these 4 units, 4,200 square meters to generate 1.4. We estimate that the economy in terms of energy for investment in the implementation of the plans in 3 years. The project, therefore, started in 2023, identified the areas that has economic activities, and will go up to 2024. It will follow with the distribution of the proposals, or if possible, investors through interest in 2024. And after this will be evaluated and contracts assigned. The installation of the first plant would be in 2024, and the other 3 in 3 years till 2026, sorry. Well, the big challenge for sure is initial money. Besides this, we depend financing that will be captured by the municipality. We need the approval of the city senate. With this advantages, the first is the reduction of greenhouse gas effects, the conservation of natural resources, and all of this evaluated to with its operation won't generate sound or air pollution. In the implementation, there are no impact because we'll use equipment that already existing. The added value, we understand that this project is in the lines of the National Climate Plan and with the ODSs. Maria Teresa, 1 minute more. 1 more minute. It's important to say that this project is based on another pilot that was implemented in the Secretary of Environment with a cost of 20,000 euros. And now we have energy totally sustainable in the building of the Secretary. Among the main results is the climate issue, all carbon, and the reduction of 40 tons CO2. We have a potential, economic potential that is important because there will be a reduction of the cost of energy in the municipality, and also the prices that go up and down, and in moments of scarcity. We also understand that we will be supporting the local economy, will incentivize the implementation of workforce, and also develop energy and lots of investments in the area. In January, the health will benefit because of the reduction of the air pollution. But the big result that we expect is the visibility and the potential of this project that can be multiplied in the community. Just to tell you, your time is up. Just to conclude quickly, 20 seconds, okay? Okay, the big issue of this project, as we understand it, brings to close to the people the possibility to understand their action in the improvement of the mitigations of the climate. So when you bring in a park where people can see this and go in practice, we understand they will understand this to bring it to their residents, to their homes, to their companies, their businesses. And this will be a reduction in their light account.
Our panel as a dual. So I'm gonna ask for the remaining David to start his remarks, if possible. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So No, thanks for the presentation. Maybe just to start, so for us, Brazil is an eligible country, so this is a project we could look at. Definitively, solar PV on rooftop is something that today is more and more common. As I mentioned in the presentation, we've been investing in a very large scheme in Mexico, so it's quite similar. I think from your presentation, I don't know if it's clear yet, but a big question you have to ask yourself is, as you said, there is a lot of upfront cost. So in order to deal with upfront cost, either you take a loan or the municipality want to invest, or basically you get, let's say, a solution in-house. Or if you want private sector, usually the way it goes, it's with a public power purchase agreement. So you get a private investor to invest this upfront cost, and then he will sell the electricity to the municipality or the users. And I think choosing A or B will really define what type of funding you will need in the long run. And so I think it's really a question the municipality and the proponent have to ask yourself. But definitely choosing a PPA or owned infrastructure makes a big difference in the design, and also ultimately in the choice of partner you can make. So if you choose a PPA, so type of private investment, we could look at it. I feel it will be a bit small, but we have this platform already investing in Mexico. We could definitely look at it on that perspective. But I think it's a choice the municipality has to make, because if you want to take a debt to invest in your own asset, that's a different option.
Thank you, David, and interesting that we could continue the conversation to extend to Contagem these opportunities of your support for sure. Steve, may I have your observations?
Yeah, thank you, Rodrigo, and Maria, thank you very much for your presentation, and thank you to the translator as well. I appreciated that. So I completely agree with what David said there in terms of the two different approaches that you may take, and I think those two approaches are actually determined by what the municipality wants to get from this. What are its objectives? Are the objectives to save energy and save money, or are the objectives to bring in community ownership, save greenhouse gases, create jobs and growth? Because I think getting clarity on what the municipality's objectives are will, I think, determine in a way which of David's two financial models you may go down, actually. So if it's about community engagement and jobs and growth, certainly from my experience, having municipal ownership gives you greater ability to manage that process and to be more in control of it. If it's just purely about saving energy and greenhouse gas emissions, I think the investor approach for me sort of sounds a little bit more the right route. But David is probably much better placed to advise you on that than I am. But no, a really exciting project, and I'm sure that there are a lot more out there of this type, and it's not too dissimilar from the previous one in Oldham, actually, is it? Although I know there's more sun in Brazil.
Yes, I believe that the sun that David is providing us with his sunlight is being squeezed for this specific presentation for sure. But and I can state that Contagem has been really like a leader to try to make this process in Brazil. Maria Teresa, do you want to make any final comments? We have around 1 minute and a half. If you want to give any feedback from the jury or from your presentation that you want to emphasize.
Não, só respondendo a ele, é que realmente a intenção.
The intention, the final intention, is to seek reduction of carbon emission in the implementation of these solar plaques. The energy would be a incentive that this project would be multiplied by the civil society and the public would be able to seek an example, would see the example, and we understand this reduction, the community will understand that besides helping and being part of a change of energy at the end is to mitigate climate change, mitigate this, there's a benefit, economic benefit. And so the big intention is to gain in scale. We start with public buildings, with educational environment education, then we scale up in the municipality. This is what I have to say. Thank you for your opportunities. Thank you. Thank you all.
With us. And going last but certainly not least, I'd like to ask the colleagues that we're going to make the presentation by the city of Menjes in Lebanon. The project addition of from wind turbines to complement the existing hybrid system of PV generators in the city of Menjes in Lebanon. I'd like to give the floor to our colleagues. The floor and your 7 minutes is yours.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. I'm Sabine Saad. I'm going to present or pitching the project of Menjes. I hope you're not tired. Do you see my screen?
Yes, we do, Sabine.
Yes.
Thank you.
So
now in full presentations. Great. Thank you.
Thank you. So the project is entitled Production of Green Electricity from Wind Turbines Complementing the Existing PV Generators Hybrid System for the Municipality of Menjes, Lebanon. So Menjes is a Lebanese village located in Akkar district, North Lebanon. It's a traditional Mediterranean architecture EU corpus project. And 140 kilometers from Beirut, about 300 to 450 meters above the sea level. So we are a team of 4 people. First, the mayor of Menjes, Mr. George Youssef, which is a global covenant of mayors board of directors, and Mr. Sharber Ishaq, the head of environmental unit, and from the Lebanese Association for Energy Saving and for the Environment, ALME Lebanon, I'm Sabine Saad, the director of ecological transition, and Dr. Adnan Jouni, the director of renewable energy. So as stakeholders of the project, we have the Ministry of Interior and Municipalities and the Ministry of Environment. This project focuses on adaptation to climate change and specifically on the infrastructure sector, it's green local electricity production. So for the current stage, within the implementation of the Sustainable Energy and Action Plan of Menjes, being a signatory of the Global Covenant of Mayors since 2014, it aims to reduce, it's committing to reduce 40% of their emission by 2030. So a project was foreseen to install a wind turbine in the community. This will benefit from the territory wind potential, therefore increasing the use of renewable energy to reduce pressure on the public grid and help improve power plant failures and reduce the polluting electricity due to the backup diesel generator, where due to the economic and energy crisis, the electricity is unavailable and unaffordable currently. So ALME has developed for the Menjes municipality a pre-feasibility study and the framework of the project SOC, funded by the French Agency of Development, based on an average speed value for the territory estimated 5.5 meters per second at a height of 50 meters, to install with a budget of around 1.4 million euros, a 100 kilowatt wind turbine of a nominal capacity of 240 megawatt hour of green electricity per year, with energy storage estimated 30% of the total annual of the territory. That would reduce amount of around 20 tons CO2 equivalent per year coming from diesel generators. So as the upcoming project timeline, if the project starts in 2024, the 1st of 2024, we need to establish the feasibility study. We need to start the technical design and economic feasibility analysis. Then within 2 months to start with the necessary authorization, like the environmental impact assessment report. After that, we will do the civil, mechanical, and electrical engineering works, implemented operational characteristics, and after that, the project can start its phase of operation and monitoring for 12 months, preview to start its full operation and total operation in the 3rd month of 2026. So as I mentioned, we have in the country a huge economy and energy crises, and we have also the energy is unavailable and unaffordable. And the alternative energy existing is high polluting diesel generators within the streets and between the residentials. So the approach is that this project will produce clean energy during cold and night periods to complement the existing PV plant and reduce the pollution and bills of diesel generators. So it consists of a wind production installation of capacity of 100 kilowatts with a 1 megawatt hour of storage, which corresponds to an autonomy of a half day of consumption, producing 250 megawatt hour per year. So the green electricity produced will be distributed through the networks of the generators managed by the local community. So small turbine was chosen for this project with the installation of a speed measurement at the top of the turbine for monitoring, as analyzing of the speed data in order to get real values, therefore minimizing the effect of the risk of fault in wind speed data for any duplication project in the future. So as the outcomes expected, this project will help the energy transition of the community. It increases the use of energy, renewable energy, and therefore reduce the pressure on the public grid and help improve power plant failures. And it of course increase the independence to fossil fuels. This project will help Minges being a sustainable city because it falls under the local authority commitment in the Covenant of Mayors. Economically, it will reduce the energy cost for around 2,000 beneficiaries with a possibility to extend the supply to the neighborhoods during daytime where the load is low. And environmentally, it will contribute to the reduction of the CO2 emissions of fossil fuels, and it will help, of course, improve the resilience of the territory. It promotes a resilient environment and the economy by making viable use of the wind, ameliorating financially and socially the quality of life of the citizens. So this project, it's important to mention that it falls in the national priorities and infrastructure for climate adaptation, specifically in the strategic actions of modeling expected electricity supply changes from locally available resources while meeting the commitment of the country or NDC. So it will be a pilot project, the first in Lebanon, where a community produces wind electricity and manages the system distributed on the territory. So this project estimated around 1.4 million euros, which 450,000 euro can be contributed by the municipality through the territory of the property. And it will have a annual revenue generated saving of 160,000 euro per year with around 8 years of payback period. But there are lots of financial barriers, such as insufficient access to investment. The loans and operating capital for the municipality are unavailable due to the monetary and financial crisis and the total collapse of the banking sector in the country since 2019. And the initial capital and cost for this project are too high to be assumed by the city or insured by the city of Minges alone. So the kind of support we need.
Sabine,
yes.
just 1 minute to closure.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, it's the technical assistance in selecting, transporting, and installing the wind turbine because it's unusual in the country. And maybe a grant dedicated to the municipality of Minges to establish the feasibility study, implement, and monitor the project. So I need to mention that this project will bring a revenue to the municipality by collecting energy bills from the citizens. This revenue will be necessary for the maintenance and the sustainability of the project, as well as to invest in the implementation of the Sustainable Energy Action Plan of the municipality. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Sabine. Thank you to the presentation. So interesting to see the different array of projects that here in TAP we're able to advance together and take forward not only the presentation of the project, but the whole concept of the project visibility in Lebanon. Thank you so much. I'd like to ask for our jury to be here with us for your comments. I'm just seeing here. I believe Steve, could you start?
Of course, thank you. Thank you very much, Sabine, and a really well presented project. I think a really solid. I mean, it sounds like you got a great plan and very and structured it in a very straightforward, simple, and easy to understand way, which I always find very helpful. I also think that the risks actually are pretty low, really technically, from what you said, and you've got the political buy-in, you've got technical support around it. So all of that seems to be like, why would one not want to invest in this? But I don't understand, but because I'm not living in that region, but I understand the fiscal challenges that you're working with, and it's challenging in that regard. I mean, I don't know, Dave might agree on this, but I think the opportunity to get private investment into this will be challenging because it's not a big project. But just a couple of thoughts, if I may. One is that a lot of large global companies, including what I used to work for, which is Arab, run their ESG programs, and it might be worth trying to get someone to assist you with promoting it amongst them. And some of these firms, Arab being an example, offer technical support. Through an ESG program, there may be some opportunities to get a small amount of support from them to help with some of the technical work that you may require. My second thought actually was, have you done any cost benefit analysis, or is that part of the next phase of work on the impact of installation of the wind turbine, as opposed to continuing with the current system, which I understood was just primarily diesel generators? And what the long-term cost would be of doing both, and what the payback periods would be, just so it demonstrates that financial benefit of investing in the wind turbine, as opposed to the current do nothing option, which is diesel generators. But if I had the money, I'd love to provide so. But I think you've set out a really clear plan, really clear, simple plan, and that's incredibly helpful.
Thank you, Steve. Sabine, I'm going to ask you to make your comments in the end after David. Okay. Thank you so much. I would like to give the floor to David. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and indeed a very nice presentation. So maybe just to start, we've looked at deal in Lebanon. So we also deployed technical assistance already in Lebanon. So first point is, let's be very honest. If you want the project to have an international investor, he will want every offtake to be in US dollar, given the state of the currency, and that will bring issue with the affordability. So I would really look for a national investor, being private or public. But if you start bringing someone who will pay in euro or USD and want a return, basically the project will not become affordable for the citizen, because they will have to pay in USD. And today, covering the hedging costs, so the risk of the currency, is just too expensive and not doable. So we know 2 investment funds that are run in Lebanon. We could connect you to. Definitely €1 million. So today the gap is on the small end of their investment mandate usually, but no, it's totally I think people can look at that. So I think not much to add on this one. I think it is, as Steve said, straightforward, but definitively we having looked at deals in Lebanon, the issue with the currency today is quite massive. So yeah, that would be a huge concern, and I think for this type of amount, it would be difficult to find an investor in US dollar that wants to start looking at the hedging and all that. For those type of amounts, maybe you could also look at the EU or those type of you're on the high end of grants, but maybe that's also a possibility, is to have someone like you just funding the project with a grant, because it's still in the range of potential grants. So yeah, I can put you in contact with the two funds we know that are active in Lebanon and can do investment in Lebanese currency. But it's yeah, it has always been a challenge for us to work in Lebanon. I have to be very honest.
Well, thank you for the honesty, David and Steve. Sabine, will you have 30 seconds, 1 minute to make your feedback, not only of Steve's remarks, but whatever you may choose.
Yes, I would like to thank you first for your comments and for this opportunity. And I would like to say that a few years ago, this project was not profitable at all, because the electricity in Lebanon, we had subsidies on electricity and on energy, and it was very cheap. So now many studies are done, especially that we have a big potential of wind in the north of Lebanon. We have the corridor of wind in the north, and it's a big potential. So I think it's a great initiative. It will be a great initiative, and as I said, a pilot project for Lebanon, especially for the local communities that currently are the community that or the authority that is working on ground due to the political situation in the country. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sabine, and thank you so much, Steve, David, for your time, for your thoughts, and to be able to share with us during this panel. I thank Dave Jackson that he unfortunately has to leave earlier, but we're going to share our greetings with him as well. Thank you so much, the cities, Mosul. Thank you so much for your capability to be here. We know that when you are passing through the situation of having to deal with so many things in the city management, to be able to be here, to share with us your capabilities, your possibilities, and the opportunities that we have to share with this network, I believe that for us is a great asset. I thank you so much, my partners at the TAP initiatives. I'd like to especially thank my colleagues of the ICLEI World Secretariat for the time and the possibility of myself being here representing our office in South America to be here at this speech moment. Thank you so much. I would like to give the floor to my colleague, Giorgia Rambelli, to make the initial of our closure moment. Thank you so much. Have a nice day, you all.
Thank you very much, Rodrigo and colleagues, for all of that. I think it was an incredibly insightful conversation, the one that we had today. We went through running through a series of options and opportunities that cities can take advantage of, into a real analysis of some of the incredible ideas that the cities are bringing forward to the ground. Clearly, they are well thought through. Clearly, there is a direction that communities worldwide are taking when it comes to improving the quality of life locally. And I think that this was a great exercise to bring together two different communities that need to work with one another to ensure that we can really not only design ambitious goals, but also achieve them in practice. Before I give the floor to Esther Mojaroshi for the real concluding remarks, I wanted just to underline the fact that we have an opportunity again to continue this conversation. I mentioned earlier where I have the pleasure to be the director of this mission called the Urban Transition Mission. Many of the cities that have been presenting today, Contagion, but also Greater Manchester Authority, are already among the cities that have joined the Urban Transition Mission cohort. And we are currently having an open call for more cities across the world to join us in this mission to become net zero resilient and inclusive community as fast as possible. So I would like to share with you just a quick slide to show you here the opportunity. I mentioned we have an application open. We are looking for 250 new communities to join our family in the future. You can access via the QR code that you see there on the screen. Requirements are very minimal. Cities need to be at least 50,000 inhabitants or be able to combine their application with other communities. I believe colleagues from Menzies have already sent through their application. I can't spoil the results, but we certainly have received it. We have also the possibility to join either as a county or as a province. So please do feel free to also consider that option. Cities must be a signatory of the Global Covenant of Mayors or planning to become one. This is because we don't want to reinvent a city journey that you have already started, but we really want to build upon the efforts that your community have already been making in terms of the planning and their forecasting for the future of your decarbonization and resilience in your community, and just spend more time in really supporting you in implementing the actions that are part of this journey. And this is where, once again, I want to thank colleagues from ICLEI, from TAP, and in particular in their role as the kind of help desk for anything that relates to finance opportunities and capacity within the Urban Transition Mission Center. This platform that will continue to offer more opportunities for capacity building and exchange. So invitation to join our community, invitation to watch out for new opportunities via the Urban Transition Mission Center. That is kind of our online platform for really sharing more opportunities, and more to come also in terms of TAPs. I don't want to steal your thunder, Esther, but I believe that we can expect more of this marketplace taking place. So maybe I'll just stop here and give you the floor to tell us a little bit what we can expect also from the future. Many thanks.
Yes, thank you so much, Georgia. And indeed, this was today one event, but it was just one action among many. And definitely we would like to continue. I really hope that it was a useful learning exercise for all, for the cities, but also actually for the finance experts to really hear from the cities their ideas and to exchange with them directly. So also, those who didn't have the opportunity to pitch today, I really hope that it was a useful event for you, learning about existing and also upcoming international financing sources, opportunities, project preparation facilities. We will continue this work. We also heard today a lot of promises. We will certainly follow up on those. And we really would like to thank particularly for the 4 cities who really were our pioneers in this collaboration with the UTM and pitching today, Contagion, Malang, Menzies, and Oldham. Many thanks for showcasing your ambitious urban development plans, and we will not stop here. We are here to support you further and find solutions for your project. And indeed, also just as Georgia said, also in the TAP, we are constantly looking for new project ideas and applications. The recent call is open until the 15th of December, but then also next year in February or March, we are already planning to open the next call. So this collaboration will certainly continue. With that, I would like to thank again. We recorded today's event and we'll also share the slides with you. And I would like to thank again so much for all our speakers and the cities and the jury members, particularly the moderators, and for all of you to be here today. Thanks so much, and wishing you a nice continuation of the day.